Hi, and welcome to this episode. I'm so much looking forward to this conversation for a very long time. Thank you for joining at a short notice of 15 minutes. And I would also want to thank the guest who dropped out at the last moment, because, in that sense, a dream of mine has come true by having you as a guest. So I want to start welcoming you. Others, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Um, I'm Adarsh. I'm from Mysore and I'm a housewife.
Hmm. Oh my God. Okay, she's also an engineer and she's quite brilliant at her work. She's opted to live this life of simplicity and really does well in whatever she picks up, as much as I know of her. So I want to begin this conversation on a note of a certain vulnerability that you pointed out when we were speaking last, which is around 10-15 minutes back. Uh, you were unsure that you are able to articulate your thoughts well. How do you deal with this, and what is it that really perturbs you about this?
Um, I, when I hear other people and then I listen to myself, I do feel I'm not very articulate. Um, and I'm trying, but I'm not successful. I keep trying though. Some people they know exactly what to say, how to say, their choice of words, and I'm still learning. So I guess in that sense I said I'm not articulate.
Okay, this is very interesting because I personally have a feeling that articulating the deeper thoughts that one has, or when the conversation really means something to us, be it whosoever we are having it with, whether it is for this kind of recording or even a conversation that we will end up having with friends who we are very close to, when we are trying to think aloud. Uh, the way you speak, I I think it often reminds me that nothing is to be taken for granted and every word has to be thought through, in the sense of, is it really exactly what I want to say about the matter? So is it not actually a good habit to have that others among us should inculcate? Why would you think that it needs to be improved upon?
um, I feel it needs to be improved upon because my I know that my thought process is just haywire. It goes everywhere, and during any conversation, there is a certain flow. You don't want to uh, disrupt that flow, but which I feel I tend to do a lot in my conversations. I just go off on a tangent.
Uh, because of my experience of speaking to you on various occasions on a number of issues, a lot of them on subjects which are very difficult to speak about to start with.
Hmm.
Uh, Although this series is on vulnerability, I think my relationship with a few friends like you is more about those spaces only. So when I speak, I I think I value what comes because I know it has been sorted out within, and the time taken does not perturb me as a listener, because at times, uh, now for example, I'll give you a good example that comes up. When I started the values workshop conversations, when there were topics were changing every week, uh, this kind of stopping and saying was scoffed at, and a lot of people didn't like it and they wanted to me to improve upon it. And these days I do this again after we have shifted to being on video. Most of my guests have now been on video as well. I still mumble, I still fumble, try and find the right word that I'm trying to say. And now it seems like there is a lot of gravitas to what I'm saying because nobody seems to be complaining about this as long as they can see me, which I find is just a manner of senses. So when their visual sense was not being uh, getting the input that they wanted, they, they thought I was not articulate enough. Whereas I personally think is just the way that I like people to have conversations which are worthy of our time. Because a lot of us, I spend a lot of time wasting it talking about things that don't really matter or improve anybody's life, including mine. And often I think that is waste of good energy. But having said that, one has to be easy with oneself, and life is complicated without us trying to further that cause. So my question to you is there any other way that you can relook at your what you call your vulnerability, or is it also a sense of limitation of vocabulary that makes you feel that no, I wish I had a better way to communicate what I have been thinking? Is that the problem according to you?
Um, I feel somewhere deep inside it may be an insecurity,
Okay.
and um, it also I feel the thought that things have to be a certain way. Well,
Ah,
things have to be a certain way. I somewhere deep inside have not accepted that it can be in other ways also, and it is still okay. And I'm very stuck in my mind that no, this has to be like this. Conversations are like this, you know, that kind of ideal in my head.
uh, with you as the director, I think art movies would not get made then if this was right. There are a lot of silences in them, a lot of meaningful conversations which need not always be in a linear fashion. But having said that, I want to bring in one more thing. You said there is a sense of deep sense of being sure that conversations have to be a certain way. Have you ever stayed with that thought and found out where does that come from? Has there been any going into the pop psychology mode? Is there anything that got stuck there when somebody said something when you were fumbling at some point? Is there anything
uh,
like that?
oh no, I think in a couple of conversations, people have told me, oh, you're repeating yourself, you're talking the same thing, and probably cut me off. And they're
Yeah.
perfectly justified because this is something which I have to work on. um, so things like that, and that is where I felt, yes, maybe I have to change. There is something in me that I have to change.
What was your age when this was said to you? Would you remember what was the age group that you belong to?
I was a teenager.
Okay. Uh, I am quoting somebody else here. I used to collect quotes, had them in a diary. So somebody said, "Ki, do not laugh at a youth for his affections. He is just trying one face after another to find out his own." And would you not be, would you not want to be kind to your youthful self and relook at this premise? I do agree that there is always room for improvement that all of us have. But since this conversation is being so real and so authentic in its, we could have been having this conversation on phone without the camera on. I think we would still have the same conversation, which is a delight because today I really thought that I want to operate in a space where you could also ask me difficult questions and we will try and be in a space of genuine vulnerability, irrespective of knowing that we will be overheard. So, my question to you, would you not be willing to relook at it and being kind to the youthful others who, who was also taking feedback, uh, but was obviously disappointed in herself at that point of time? Because you've stayed with this for a long time.
Yes. And I think it, I mean, this is the first time during this conversation that I'm thinking of being kind to my, teenage self. Um, it will definitely take time because that mindset and um, that thought has been reinforced all these
Yeah.
years by my own self. So I'm sure it is not easy, but in after this conversation, I'm sure I'm going to try and be kinder to my former
Younger self.
self and try to get over this.
Yeah, this idea came to me from something that I read where a lot of people berate, if I remember the word correctly, the meaning of the word, berate themselves for being a certain way. Uh, in the last 2 years, we've seen a lot of people going into some kind of depressive states, clinical or not, because of COVID bringing up all kinds of fears. A friend of mine was traveling from Nasik, and he was saying he saw a couple wearing nets on their heads and hands covered and gloves and socks and afraid of catching something, so much so that the we were having a laugh because the hubby found when the crowd was lesser, he wanted to go get some fresh air on the door of the train, and the wife glared at him and he had to come back. So while I appreciate this point of view that the world has not gone through a very easy time in the last 2 years itself also, but it is a similar thing. We are all grappling with quote unquote weaker versions of ourselves post these 2 years because of our our trust in the world had to be like in a certain manner. I remember many times when I had to go fetch something or go out around say evening 7 or 8. I used to find it very eerie that the whole world was locked down. Like there were only street lights were on and there were no lights coming from any of the shops. There were no people on the road, and it seemed like a bad Hollywood movie plot that I was part of. Because when you saw that, you always knew that there was, oh, this is a story they are telling us. But this was real in comparison. So the reason why talking about this is the younger Adarsh at that point of time, however kind she was to others or however open-minded she was to developing her own self, would have wanted to hear that it's all right, you shall grow and improve in time. Because there's no, okay, I'll reframe and ask you another question. Uh, since this topic and this event itself is very small in itself, but the ramifications seem much bigger when I'm thinking about it. With all due respect, please stop me if at any point you think this is on camera, you wouldn't want to talk about it. But say, for example, there are a lot of people that we look up to who are opposite of what we are. They seem to have the characteristics that we desire to have in our own person.
Yes.
Many a time I have come close to such people and I have realized that there is a false sense of bravado. Um, the the face behind the mask is something else altogether. They have the same problems at times. if
Mm.
not sometimes similar problems, sometimes other problems, but they are as vulnerable as any of us are.
Mm.
So how come you have not ever accounted for that kind of thought process all these years? Is there any other pattern of thought that has been, making you beat yourself up, saying, I'm not saying beat yourself up in a very strong, harsh sense, because I thought you've never, um, it's not your first conversation starter that I don't speak very well. You're okay. You talk normally, and till the time comes where you are really trying to say something substantial or something worthy, at that point you start going into this zone. So, what are your thoughts about? Are there any other mind uh, flows, if I were to call them, which have led to this?
Um, no, I think at some level, I am extremely comfortable with who I am and my thought process and everything. I'm very comfortable, but I think there is also this streak of striving for perfection.
Uh,
So, and in those moments, I feel no, just like what you mentioned, I should be like that person. I should be able to talk well. I should be able to phrase this well, you know, that kind of feeling.
hmm,
So, I agree with what you said that there are people we look up to who are very articulate and all, but they do seem vulnerable in many other ways.
yeah.
Uh, and most of the times I do feel that you know striving for perfection, it is like a shield. It protects us from being seen for who really are. And
Wow.
that's what I feel. I sometimes do feel that way, but
Yeah. You still strive.
I still strive.